The lion lay at the edge of the clearing, chest rising and falling in shallow rhythm, ears flicking toward the distant wind. A faint cough rattled from his throat, but his golden eyes were steady, scanning the brush. The whisperer froze, heart tightening. Time seemed to suspend between them. The grass shimmered with late afternoon light, bending under the weight of a slow breeze. The air carried the scent of dry earth and fallen leaves, and the faint tang of the lion's musk. Each sound, distant birds, rustling branches, the lion's labored breathing, punctuated the hush of the moment. "Easy, old friend," the whisperer murmured, stepping lightly onto the soft ground. His voice carried no command, only recognition. The lion's ears twitched, and for a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then, slowly, the massive creature lifted his head, nostrils flaring, eyes locking with the human who had once guided him from injury to health. The lion's coat was thinner than remembered, streaked with scars from the years of wild survival. Yet in his gaze there was familiarity, the quiet acknowledgement of a shared past. He rose on trembling limbs, the ground vibrating faintly beneath each careful step. The whisperer mirrored his movement, cautious and unhurried, maintaining the fragile balance between presence and intrusion. As they closed the gap, small signs of trust appeared, a soft lowering of the head, a subtle shift of weight, the tail flicking in measured rhythm. The whisperer knelt on one knee, extending a hand but leaving a deliberate distance. The lion lowered himself to the grass, body trembling slightly, and pressed his cheek to the soil in a gesture of calm recognition. The clearing seemed to exhale with them, golden light draping both human and animal in quiet warmth. For minutes, neither spoke nor moved more than necessary, allowing the bond to resonate through silence. Each breath was a communion, each glance a reaffirmation of the trust that had endured years apart. Then a small sound, a low moan, almost a whisper, rippled from the lion. The whisperer felt it in his chest, a tremor of emotion too deep for words. Kneeling closer, he softly stroked the tip of the lion's menere, careful not to disturb the fragile trust. The lion pressed into the touch, eyes closing briefly, then opened them to meet the whisperer's gaze again. Time seemed suspended as the sun dipped lower, gilding the edges of the trees. Finally, with a gentle shift, the lion rose fully and padded a few steps forward, tail sweeping the dry grass. He paused, glancing back once, and the whisperer nodded, understanding the silent farewell that was not a goodbye but a continuation of their bond. The lion moved toward the horizon, the golden light highlighting his powerful frame as he merged with the wilderness. The whisperer remained in the clearing, chest heavy and heart light, carrying the moment with him, a quiet testament to patience, care, and the enduring power of trust. Even as the lion disappeared from view, the whisperer felt the bond lingering in the air, a soft echo of connection between human and nature, unbroken and unforgettable. The whisperer spotted him first through a patch of sun-bleached grass, a slight rise of movement, a low groan, barely audible above the rustle of leaves. The lion lay on his side, ribs visible beneath dusty fur, eyes half-closed, ears flicking at each distant sound. His breathing was uneven, shallow, and ragged. "Take it slow, little one," the whisperer murmured, voice soft as wind through the branches. The lion's head lifted barely an inch, nostrils flaring, a faint recognition passing through weary eyes. The clearing smelled of dry soil and sun-baked grass, mingling with the sharper tang of the lion's musk and the faint metallic hint of old injuries. The whisperer knelt, careful not to startle him, studying each subtle movement, a tremor in a paw, the gentle twitch of a tail, a brief flick of the ears. He could see the thinness clearly now, hips prominent, shoulder blades sharp beneath the fur, but there was life still in the golden eyes, an unspoken defiance. The whisperer reached slowly toward a fallen branch, breaking it gently to make a small trail of meat and water nearby. The lion lifted his nose, sniffing cautiously, muscles tensing and relaxing in a rhythm of wary trust. Hours passed as the sun moved westward, shadows stretching long over the clearing. The lion shifted slightly, groaning softly, then nudged at the food. Each bite was careful, measured, but his body rose a fraction taller, spine lengthening with a quiet grace. The whisperer remained close, never imposing, letting the animal lead the interaction. The wind carried the distant cries of birds, the scent of damp earth from a nearby stream, and the rustle of small creatures hidden in undergrowth. The lion's fur gleamed faintly in the sunlight, each scar a story of survival. After a slow, deliberate hour, the lion lifted his head and made a low, rasping sound, half a growl, half a sigh. The whisperer's hand hovered near the lion's menere, fingers trembling, before resting gently along the ridge of his neck. The lion pressed lightly into the touch, a small sign of trust, before lying back, eyes half closed. Evening fell with a softness, painting the sky in amber and rose. The lion's breathing steadied, muscles loosening in the calm light, and he shifted to a more comfortable position. The whisperer stayed nearby, chest pressed against the ground, feeling the faint warmth radiating from the lion's body. No words were needed. The shared silence carried understanding and care. As shadows lengthened and night began to settle over the clearing, the lion lifted his head one final time, ears flicking at the whisperer's movement. A subtle nod, a soft inhale, and then he lay down again, calm and still. The whisperer rose slowly, leaving space between them, heart full of quiet hope. The lion's resilience glimmered in the fading light, a fragile but undeniable strength, hinting at the possibility of recovery and the deepening bond that could grow if patience and care endured. The whisperer watched him, breathing in the scent of grass, earth, and faint musk, knowing this moment would remain with him long after darkness fell. The lion stirred at dawn, eyes half-lidded and muscles trembling as he pushed himself upright. Each careful movement was a negotiation between weakness and instinct, ribs still visible beneath the patchy golden coat, but there was more strength than yesterday. He stepped slowly onto the soft earth, paws pressing into the dewy grass, claws brushing the soil. "Easy, take your time," the whisperer said, his voice almost swallowed by the morning breeze. The lion's ears flicked, head tilting toward the sound, then returned to his slow inspection of the clearing. Sunlight spilled through the trees, warm and golden, highlighting every scar and streak of dirt on the lion's fur. The whisperer noticed how the lion's eyes flickered over the landscape, checking the trees, the fallen logs, the thin stream at the clearing's edge. Each sniff, each subtle movement, was a testament to survival and growing confidence. A slight misstep on a mossy rock caused the lion to stumble, muscles tensing with alarm. He froze, breath catching, eyes wide with a hint of panic. The whisperer's hand hovered near, never pushing, only present, a quiet anchor. "It's all right, you're safe," he murmured, low and steady. The lion inhaled, then exhaled, tension easing as if understanding the words were as much promise as reassurance. The clearing was alive with sound, the gentle rustle of leaves, the trill of distant birds, the faint splash of water in the stream. The lion stretched his back, shaking loose the stiffness, and then padded carefully toward the edge where the grass grew thicker. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, but carried a new hint of confidence. The whisperer followed, maintaining a respectful distance. He observed the subtle signs of recovery, the faint sheen of health returning to the lion's coat, the lessened rasp in his breathing, the steadying rhythm of his heartbeat visible beneath the skin. For the first time, the lion approached the small pile of meat without hesitation, eating with a slow, steady grace. As the morning wore on, the lion explored the clearing with small, tentative loops, glancing back occasionally at the whisperer. Each glance was a silent acknowledgement of shared understanding, a wordless promise that this space was a place of safety. The whisperer knelt on the grass, hand resting lightly on his knee, feeling the subtle tremor of anticipation in the air. By noon, the lion rested under the shade of an acacia, tail flicking lazily, eyes half-closed in quiet contentment. The whisperer settled nearby, careful not to crowd him, breathing in the warm scents of sun-baked earth, faint musk, and distant wildflowers. The golden light of midday painted everything in soft warmth, emphasizing the lion's slow return to vitality. The moment felt fragile, yet powerful, a testament to resilience, patience, and trust earned rather than demanded. The whisperer stayed still, heart swelling with quiet pride, knowing this fragile bond would carry them both forward. When the lion finally rose again, testing his strength with slow, purposeful steps, it was no longer tentative. Confidence had begun to replace fear, and with it, a new chapter of healing and connection. A faint rustle of leaves broke the morning calm, drawing the lion's attention. His ears twitched, nostrils flaring, muscles tensing as he rose on trembling limbs. The whisperer watched silently, aware that the lion had grown stronger but remained cautious, fragile in ways only patience could reveal. The forest beyond the clearing stretched dense and shadowed, the sun filtering in narrow shafts of gold. Each step the lion took pressed dew from the grass, stirred the earthy scent of fallen leaves, and echoed faintly on the moss-covered ground. The air carried the musky scent of other animals, small, unseen, yet vital reminders of the forest's rhythm. "Stay steady," the whisperer murmured, voice low and even. The lion's head flicked toward him, a subtle acknowledgement, then returned to the movement in the undergrowth. A small wild dog burst from behind a fallen log, barking and snapping, testing the lion's resolve. The lion froze, muscles taut, eyes sharp and calculating, measuring the threat. The whisperer held his breath, letting instinct guide the encounter. The lion lowered his body slightly, tail flicking, then emitted a soft, low growl, not aggressive, but assertive, a quiet declaration of strength. The dog hesitated, circling, sniffing the air, before retreating into the thicket. The lion exhaled slowly, body relaxing, but ears remained alert, scanning the edges of the clearing. The whisperer stepped closer, careful to maintain respect for the lion's space, and knelt in the grass. Fingers brushed a fallen leaf, twirling it absent-mindedly, an unspoken symbol of calm presence. The lion, now standing taller, muscles rippling beneath his coat, glanced back once, eyes locking with the whisperer's. There was recognition, an understanding that danger could be met and overcome, and that help existed not in force, but in steady, patient companionship. The sun climbed higher, scattering light through the canopy in patterns that danced across the lion's back. The faint glimmer of strength in his eyes was mirrored by the whisperer's quiet pride. Together, they moved toward the stream at the forest edge, water glinting in the light, each step measured, deliberate, and confident. The lion drank carefully, lowering his head and letting the cool liquid soothe a dry throat. The whisperer remained at the edge of the bank, silently observing, noting the ease in the lion's shoulders, the soft flick of his tail, the gentle exhale of muscles no longer bound by fear. By midday, the lion had explored nearly half the forest clearing, each movement deliberate and measured, a testament to resilience and growing trust. The whisperer followed at a distance, every sense alert yet relaxed, feeling the subtle heartbeat of connection between human and animal. The forest hummed softly around them, a witness to a bond strengthened through quiet courage, gentle guidance, and mutual respect. As the sun dipped toward the afternoon, the lion paused at a ridge overlooking the clearing, chest heaving, fur glinting in golden light. He glanced back at the whisperer, then turned to stride confidently back toward the familiar grass of the clearing. In that moment, the journey from weakness to cautious strength felt complete, yet only the beginning of a deeper, unspoken trust. The lion emerged from the edge of the forest at dawn, muscles rippling beneath a coat gleaming with regained health. Each stride was long, deliberate, a rhythm of strength earned through days of quiet care. The whisperer followed at a measured distance, heart swelling with anticipation, yet mindful of the lion's autonomy. A faint rustle of leaves drew the lion's attention. His ears flicked, nostrils flaring at distant scents, body coiled with alertness. He paused in the clearing, scanning familiar trees and fallen logs, the breeze carrying the faint scent of wildflowers and earth. The whisperer knelt in soft grass, voice a gentle murmur, "You've come far, old friend." The words were a bridge, unintrusive yet grounding. The lion stepped closer, tail brushing the grass in slow arcs, movements precise and controlled. When he reached the whisperer, he lowered his massive head, pressing gently against the human's shoulder. It was a simple, quiet gesture, yet profound, a seal of trust and recognition that spanned years and hardships. The morning light washed over the clearing, gilding each blade of grass, the sheen of the lion's fur, and the soft outlines of trees. A light breeze rustled leaves and carried the faint aroma of damp earth. Every detail, the distant call of a hawk, the glimmer of dew on leaves, seemed to pause, framing the intimate connection unfolding. The whisperer rested a hand lightly along the lion's menere, feeling warmth, pulse, and life beneath fur that had once been ragged and thin. The lion pressed into the touch, exhaling in steady rhythm, eyes half-closed in calm. Silence conveyed more than words ever could. The trust they had nurtured through patience and care radiated in that single shared breath. After a moment, the lion lifted his head, nostrils flaring as though inhaling every detail of the clearing. Then, with a subtle flick of the ears, he stepped a short distance away before glancing back at the whisperer. The gaze was soft yet certain, an unspoken promise. The bond they shared would endure, even as the wild called him forward. The whisperer rose slowly, giving space and honoring the lion's independence, and watched him move toward the sunlit ridge. Each stride was strong, measured, and graceful, the scars of past hardship hidden beneath layers of vitality and confidence. The lion paused briefly at the crest, golden sunlight highlighting his form against the distant trees, then disappeared into the forest beyond. The clearing seemed to exhale in quiet aftermath. The whisperer remained standing, chest heavy with emotion yet light with fulfillment. Around him, the forest resumed its natural rhythm. Leaves stirred, birds called, the earth breathed, but he carried the moment within. Trust, patience, and connection had woven a bond that would remain forever. Even as shadows lengthened and sunlight softened into warm amber, the whisperer felt the lingering presence of the lion, a quiet reminder that true bonds need no words. Nature had granted them a rare gift, recognition, resilience, and the enduring power of care nurtured in silence.